Heroes, villains, a tale as old as time, and the never-ending battle to protect truth and justice from those who thrive on chaos and bloodshed. Come with us as we peel back the mask on your beloved Crusaders of Light and dive deep into the dark and twisted abyss of the most feared and hated harbingers of doom. Follow your host, Power Maximus, and everyone's favorite demigod, Lord Triage, as they take a trip down the rabbit hole that is everything super. So, are you a hero or a villain? Either way, find that super suit and suit up for the Super Breakdown.
What is up? What is up? Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another interview. You already know who I am. I'm Power Maximus, and we are here with the one, the only, everyone's favorite demigod, Lord Triage. We are back with another interview. Today, we have a special guest today. Please introduce yourself, brother.
Hello, everybody. Jaurice is my name. Last name Smiley. Let's see a little bit about me. Born in Detroit, but grew up in PG County, Maryland. Shout outs to PG County, just outside the DMV. DMV meaning DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. We kind of cut off that. Pretty much once you go past Kings Dominion, you're outside the DMV. And also, Baltimore is not DMV. Let me clarify that. A lot of Baltimore folk like to say, "Oh no, that they're probably DMV." No, Baltimore is not DMV. No disrespect to Be More. I have a brother out there, which I'll get into because it's a part of my writing. But again, Baltimore is not DMV. Yeah.
All right, all right. So ladies and as for this month we've been connecting with a lot of young Black authors and comic book creators and writers. Today we're sitting down to talk about two, not just one, but two of this young man's books. The Royal Grey Box, what we have here, and Tourian as well. So, and again, we definitely want to say thank you, bro, for sending these out to us, and they're signed. So we definitely appreciate that, man. Seriously. Now, so first off, let's talk about Royal Grey Box. What's the story behind that? So it's a seems to be a book of short stories. What's the story behind that?
Well, and unfortunately, I have to start the conversation off on a not so positive note. On November 24th, my dad passed away.
I'm
He
sorry, bro.
had he had ALS, and it was
Oh,
quite quick. It went from he might last 2 years to last a year to he might not see the end of 2021, and it was a real quick thing. And um, I actually thought about giving up writing because Tourian actually came out earlier in 2021. It came out in April, and so I was just living off the high of that. And then towards the end of the year, my dad started getting really, really sick, and the situation just started to unfold in a not great way, and until he met his demise. And so November 24th was actually the day before Thanksgiving in 2021. So Thanksgiving for me was that year was horrendous, awful. Um, but
sorry
that
to hear about that.
Sunday,
My condolences, man.
but that Sunday, one of my friends called me from North Carolina. Shout outs to Taylor, aka Dr. Yogi, which is gamer tag, which I'll explain that. Um, he had called me and we talked for 2 hours. And we were just reminiscing because I met him while I was at school. I went to North Carolina A&T out in Greensboro. Shout outs to A&T, Aggie Pride all day, class of 2011, blue and gold all day, every day. And we talked for 2 hours though. And I told him I didn't know if I could write anymore. I just was not in the best of spirits mentally and emotionally to sit down and take the time to do it. And then he just said, "You need to start writing." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, you need to start writing." I was like, "All right, okay." And so I did a great deal of writing and research. I already had short stories laying around, but even beyond that, I came up with whole new short stories and just sat back and just did a lot of writing and channeled a lot of my grief into that process. I mean, everyone has their outlet when they come across difficult and harsh times. And for mine, it was writing. I mean, a lot of people, unfortunately, they fall into more destructive habits. Me, writing kind of became that outlet, and video gaming, of course, and just my family and friends. But the main thing was writing helped me out in a tremendous way during that time. Um, and so I just did a great deal of writing, and it kind of just evolved into something that, you know what, I feel like these short stories would be very great. There's 5 short stories in them, and they all cover different things and topics I want to talk about. It's not like every short story is kind of in the same theme, like like a Stephen King type thing where it's all horror. No, these short stories are a little bit different because again, they're different stories that kind of cover what I wanted to talk about. I think the general idea came from this game called The Orange Box by Valve. Came
Mm-hmm.
out like
Yeah, I
years
know that.
ago. It had 5 different games in it. Um, I forget I know Portal was in it, which is I played Portal, which oh man, I need to play Portal 2, but I just remember that collection. I was like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. I want to do something like that. And so that's the idea came. And then in the book itself, there are little excerpts that I had friends of mine write, and I did some cleaning up on it, but I put little excerpts in because the idea behind that came from Big Sean. He has some albums called Detroit, and on the albums he'll have people come in and talk about Detroit. And so I thought I want to do the same thing, but it's just that in that album they all talk about Detroit. So I thought to myself, I don't want people to talk about me. I feel like that's a little bit self-absorbed and it's not enough about me. I haven't accomplished too much yet to really kind of highlight me. So I had them come in and talk about just topics I felt like worth discussing, whether it be like going to a tournament or how to deal with stress and just things I felt were interesting and cool to really highlight. But yeah, every short story is a little bit different. I can say some of them are like range from like comedy, and some of them range for like serious topics like racism and discrimination and me trying to capture to a certain extent what I feel like is the black version of like a Travis Bickle or like Sin Sweet from Yu Hakusho. But yeah, I mean that's the Royal Grey Box. So yeah, I would say for anybody that's like dealing with grief or a hard time, find a positive outlet and find the people that matter to you to help you process it. Because I mean, death is a part of the life process. It's not the process people are popping bottles for, or, can really 100% truly plan for. But what makes life so great and what makes life matter is the people around you that, they'll be with you for the best and worst of times. And remembering who you are and what you bring into this world can really help you stay focused and stay afloat amidst, grief and other negative situations.
Now, if you don't mind, let's get into some of the short stories within it. Let's start off with the first one.
Oh, the first one, well, see, I wrote that one. I wrote it a few years ago, and it initially was the Atlanta, the TV show with Donald Glover and all that. His cousin Paperboy got lost in the woods, and so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then when I actually watched the interview about the actor Brian Tyree Henry, he said the episode was literally about how dealing with grief, because at the very beginning episode, his mom shows up, and the show makes it clear from the beginning that his mom passed away. And behold, actually, the actor Brian Tyree Henry, while he was shooting season 1 of Atlanta, he actually lost his mother in real life. And so the episode kind of touches on that, like being lost in the woods, how that's what the anxiety and that grief is like. It's just a thick woods you just can't get out of. So you have to really dig deep and try to find your way out. And that was kind of me, like in 2016. There was a lot of things that kind of went wrong. I had to drive from Texas to back to the DMV on my own, which is a whole other story. But I was kind of stuck in like a pit of anxiety and frustration, and also got bit in the leg by a dog during that time. It was wild. So I just kind of put all that into the story and just kind of remind myself, like, I do this for a reason, despite all the trouble that comes on my way. I do this for a reason because I enjoy it and it's worth it, and people tell me it's worth it. So that's pretty much that story, just that anxiety and like what it's like to be just entrenched in it, but you still have to get up. You still have to realize who you are and what you do and say matters to people, and you can still be positive and take the right path. So that's pretty much that story. The second one, and this is where I kind of get into the whole gamer tag thing. Dr. Yogi is his gamer tag because he's a fan like Yogi Bear. One of my friend Taylor, shout outs to him again. We come up with gamer tags because we used to compete like in fighting games competitively. Like the FGC, as they call it, the fighting game community. Basically, people who are quite exceptional the best players in the world in games like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Killer Instinct, Tekken, Smash Brothers. Back in 2008, I was introduced to that world. I was initially a Smash player. I don't play Smash as much anymore because I don't like it. But
I feel that.
yeah, when I played Brawl heavy. I was into Brawl for like over half a decade, and I traveled all across the country playing that game. I used to play and beat some of the best people in the country in that game. I played Ultimate for a little bit, and I stopped. I just didn't enjoy it. But during that time, games like Killer Instinct came out, and I got heavy into that. But the FGC is pretty much a community. It's grassroots, meaning there's no massive corporate sponsor behind this. It's all people just doing it out of passion for the game, hosting these tournaments. Like there have been tournaments in like all across the world, actually. Like we got New Jersey, Florida, Tennessee, Europe. The biggest one in the world being in Las Vegas. Evo is what it's called. I've never been, but I always wanted to go. I've been to 2 tournaments in Florida. It's called CEO. One was in Daytona, one was in Orlando. Kumatan, Tennessee. The Fall Classic out in Raleigh, North Carolina. Smash Majors. Apex. Yeah, I've been quite many places thanks to the FGC and met so many great people. But that story, the origin was this is guy I know. His name is that demo guy's his tag, but his real name is Demore. Shout outs to him. He has a daughter. And so when I met up with him, I've known him for years, but I hooked up with him again at CEO 2018, and I was hanging out with him like in Daytona Beach, and he had mentioned, he wish he could have brought his daughter with him. And so I held on to that thought for years, like, maybe I should write a story about a guy who takes his daughter to a tournament. Because I've been on tournaments for years, so I've seen a lot of stuff, good and bad. But the idea of like somebody taking their daughter to a tournament, that'd be kind of interesting. Because I've seen guys take, their girlfriends and things of that nature, and their wives and nephews and all that. But taking your daughter, I thought it'd be kind of cool. And so I kind of wrote about that. And like Killer Instinct was the game I chose. That's the game that, I was heavy into. I still am, not as much as I used to, but they are coming out with a patch to change things up. I've been heavy in the Street Fighter. I've been like 3 tournaments for it and got 3rd. Yeah. Even though the character I play is low tier, she's pretty. Manon's pretty bad. But yeah, that's the second story. Do y'all play fighting games like that?
Oh yeah,
Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat?
Definitely. I literally just bought Mortal Kombat 1 today. We're actually going to be streaming that a little bit later tonight.
Cool. I heard about that. I guess my only concern I have is Cyrax is my favorite character, but he's a cameo, not a playable character. So I don't want to use him as system with a playable character. That hurts.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
I want to play
Cyrax. I feel the same way because my character is Kung Lao, and I don't think he's on the main roster.
He's an assist?
He's also an assist. My bad. Yeah, he's on the roster, and he's also an assist, too.
Wait a minute. Huh?
Yeah.
You can be an assist and be in the roster?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I'm about to go crazy.
Come on, man. They give Cyrax the same respect. But, Johnny Cage is in there. He's one of my favorite characters, too.
Yeah.
I heard Johnny Cage is really good. So... Yeah. He just hits you. He just do like one little thing. He corner carry you, do a whole bunch of damage, and you in the corner, and this is a wrap. But yeah, Cyrax and Johnny Cage are my favorite ones. I thought about getting it. I might end up getting it, but I can tell.
I'm really only getting it for the story, just because like Mortal Kombat 11 story was crazy. It's crazy. So I played the entire story. I'm not a Mortal Kombat guy. I'm not really. I'm a Tekken fighting guy. But
that come on next year.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting that too. But the story that they had set up in 11, I got to see how it plays out going into this. I got to see how that works. That story, which is unlike any other. So I'm definitely interested in doing that. Now, with Gray Box, you talked about pretty much what was more so. What was your biggest creative influence? You talked about what got you to writing this book. As unfortunate it is, at the end of the day, as a writer, as a creator, our influences, and our inspiration comes from many different sources, including grief. But as a creative influence, as in like your writing style, do you have any influences on that aspect?
I would say the main creative for me, influence for me as a creative in general would be The Dark Knight. That I watched it back in 2008 and I was just mind blown. Around that time, I was switching majors. I was doing a little bit of writing and I thought it was okay. And then I watched that movie and my mind was just taken to a whole nother world and impressed, beyond impressed. And I saw how well the movie did and how the world reacted to it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I tell everybody I'm chasing a feeling, the same feeling I got when I watched The Dark Knight for the first time, at how impressed and astounded I was. I want to give that feeling to the world. Like The Dark Knight, rest easy, Heath Ledger, of course. That movie changed everything for me. There are others, but I would say it all started with that. That's kind of the movie. That was the catalyst that set everything in motion for where I am and what I do. I would say some other things. I mean, music is a big influence on me. Movie directors like Tarantino, Spike Lee,
Hmm.
books like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, The
Ooh.
Warriors by Saul Urich. Yeah, The Warriors was a book first. I didn't even know
Hmm.
that. Then I read it. I
Yeah,
was
not
like,
a
this
lot
is
of people know that.
People do know that.
yeah. But yeah, The Dark Knight, if I were to like trace everything to its core foundation, The Dark Knight was the beginning of everything.
Mm.
That makes a
I
lot of
don't
sense.
approve as Ben
In your
Affleck
second
Batman.
story,
Yeah, I
I
don't
must say
approve
that
as Ben
makes a lot of
Affleck
sense because,
Batman.
like, in your second story, you go with the father and the daughter, and they're going back and forth. And I appreciate the whole concept of their love of cinema. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Demo, he, and no disrespect to him and his daughter like to watch horror movies. Man, I think his daughter is underage. So I mean, but they bond over it. But that's just the thing parents do. Like I remember when I was young, I used to watch certain movies that obviously I wasn't old enough to watch. But I mean, as long as there's a parent nearby and the child is safe and they're able to explain to them, yeah, Freddy Krueger just killed somebody, but it's all fictional. It's all
Yeah.
fictional. That person's really okay. But I mean, that idea came from him and his daughter. He told me that they would watch horror movies together, and so I kind of just went with that. Um, but yeah, that means shout outs to the FGC. It's been around for for a super long time, going back to like the Street Fighter 2 days. I'm glad I was able to participate. Still, I'm glad I'm able to be a part of it. And I know so many great people that are connected to it and things of that nature. Yeah, I mean, shout outs to fighting games. They're fun. They're challenging. You can get beat down, and you can beat other people down really bad. But I mean, yeah, that's just the nature of fighting games.
Yeah. Now, with the Royal Grey Box and its origin and what inspired you to write it, um, are we? Is it possible that we could see another, Royal Grey Box, another, collage of short stories?
Absolutely. I actually been working on some stuff that will tie into a sequel. I have more friends that have submitted me some little pieces, which I'll explain those after I explain the other stories, the little like excerpts I have friends write. I had them submit that. I have some short story ideas. I'm actually coming up with something right now. I have my artist who drew the cover of the Royal Grey Box and Tourian. Shout out to him. His name is Wally V on IG. He's out in Charlotte. Really great dude. I've known him for almost 10 years. And next year it'll be 10. I met him at NC Comic Con in Durham. But yeah, there more than likely will be another Royal Grey Box coming. maybe not in the immediate future, but it's on the radar.
All right. Now, have you in promotion for these? Because I see both of these books are up on Amazon. How was that marketing for it? How was the promo for it? And even then, more so before even getting into that, how was that publishing process?
Oh, well, for the Royal Grey Box, the publishing process, because this is my second one, they were they love Tourian so much, which we'll say for later. They love Tourian so much they wanted to work with me. The company Black Gold Publishing, shout outs to them. Shout outs to Tahara. They're out in the Virginia Beach area, a black owned publishing company. I
Oh, that's
was
something them
yeah,
dope.
Hey, the
I
South. We need to get some of these publishing companies up here because everyone that we've interviewed so far, like all the publishing companies that they go through, they're all coming from the South. That's wild. Like like we gotta make contacts in the South.
Yeah, damn sure.
yeah, I mean yeah, Black Gold Publishing, they're legit. They've actually helped me improve a lot of ideas I had in both case and for both books. They gave me a lot of great insight and wisdom and proper guidance. But that process for the Royal Grey Box was pretty smooth. The Tourian one was a lot more interesting, which I'll save that. But for the Royal Grey Box, it was pretty smooth. They gave me a lot of great ideas and made me change up a few things and things of that nature. Like the ending for the next story actually got changed up from what it was originally. But we'll get into. And I feel like that story, so I told them, I feel like that story might be the one that might be the most controversial one. But I mean, the Royal Grey Box, I mean, they really helped improve it. And Black Gold, they're amazing at what they do. There's a lot that goes on in the publishing world, and you know, I'm glad to have them work with them and things of that nature.
Gotcha. So how much of that process were you involved in, and how much did they handle? Were they there and they kind of like talked you through like, all right, this is what we're doing now. This is the next step after that. This is the next step after that. What was that? What was that like?
Well, I picked an editor to work with, and I kind of had conversations with them for a couple of weeks, sometimes months, to clean things up and make suggestions and kind of figure things out. Um, and that was kind of cool. Um, we had our back and forths, and there was again the ending for the next story. It got changed, and I understand. I would think about understand why. It makes sense, but overall, I mean, it was just sitting there, like many nights, many weeks, just cleaning stuff up and making changes. But besides the editor, Black Gold, they did the best. They do the best they can to promote. A lot of it is on me, which that's fine. I mean, I've been able to go out. I know how to, reach out to the public. The best way for me has been to go to conventions like BlurCon. Shout outs to George. I actually went to 4 cons this year. MagFest in January, Katsacon in February, GalaxyCon in March, and BlurCon in July. And I'm all tapped out because the con life is expensive, mentally and physically draining. It's fun, super
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
It's
very.
the
yeah. We
networking
went to
is
we went to our first con back in March, and yeah, just that alone, heading out there, just that alone was draining and quite expensive. Um, we were planning on going to a few more. We're probably just gonna get two in. We have another one in November that we're gonna go out in Saratoga because we're located up in New York State. Um,
uh,
so Saratoga, New York, they have their own little Comic Con that they do. It's actually pretty big. I should take it back. It's not really not little, but it's kind of big. Um, so we're doing that in November, and then trying to see what we can do from there. But we're probably just gonna knock out two this year, and then next year, now that we're more accustomed to that to that Comic Con life, next year we're gonna try to crack down and probably get maybe like three, possibly four. I think four might be reaching a little bit for us, but definitely three. Just trying to get our names out there. and it's helped a lot. We've gone from doing character breakdowns, just talking about specific individual characters and their evolution, whether it be comics, TV shows, and stuff. To now we're getting people, artists like you that are reaching out to us. Hey, can I get an interview? I want to talk about what I got going on, and we're getting shout outs from Midnight Comics. Salute Midnight Comics. Shout out to Sweet Bee Comics and Aline. We're getting a lot of people reaching out to us now, so that the con life really helps grow, really helps you and your platform grow. So that's something we're trying to get into.
Yeah, I mean the networking at these cons is remarkable. You can meet so many people, celebrities included. I've met Orlando Jones, met
Oh, that's dope.
what else? I met the two stars from Kingpin and Daredevil, the actors who play them.
Oh,
I got a picture with them. I got a picture with them.
And Cox.
Yeah, I got a picture with them holding Tourian, my first book, which is great, which is beautiful because the character in the book, she wants to be a lawyer, and Daredevil was the biggest inspiration. So it's kind of a full circle.
I see that. I definitely saw that. A few little shout outs to Daredevil on the writing. That threw me. That definitely threw me when I was reading.
Who else? Cree Summers. She was actually the main figure at BlurCon this year.
Okay.
I met her. But yeah, these cons, the networking and the opportunities, and this is your biggest audience will be at these cons. So if you guys are going to more of them, that's an amazing thing. And just, of course, pacing yourself is a high priority, but across the board, going to cons is recommended in that regard because your audience is there. You never know who you'll meet, who you'll encounter, who opportunities can be revealed and evolve just by stepping into those environments.
Oh, I take it back. I was mistaken. We've gone to 2 cons so far this year. We Saratoga Con in March, and then
Fandom.
And then last month we went to Schenectady Fandom Fest 2023. Takes place right here in Schenectady, New York, down at the Proctor's Theater. So yeah, we got to meet a lot of really cool people, a lot of really cool artists and stuff like that. They had unfortunately we wanted to go because Keith David was supposed to be there. Keith David was supposed to be there, and we really wanted to meet Keith David. Absolute legend. But unfortunately, I'd say maybe like
2 weeks before.
Yeah, about 2 weeks before the con, he had dropped out. And then everyone's typed like, all the thing he said was he had a personal prior engagement. And then a week after we heard that he dropped out, we hear he's now becoming the new voice of Zavala, taking over the late and great Lance Riddick's role as Zavala in Destiny. So I was like, it sucks. I wanted to meet him, but at the same time, that's awesome.
Dude, that's Goliath.
Yeah,
it is. Dude, that's Goliath.
Yeah. Yeah. That's DZ Lance Riddick.
But yeah, dude, definitely RIP to Lance Riddick. I just recently got done watching John Wick 4, and that was definitely sad. I definitely missed him. Yeah, I finally got to finish watching John Wick 4. And it definitely, you felt his presence missed in that. So definitely rest in peace, Lance Riddick. Congratulations to Keith David. But yeah, man, these cons are something that we're definitely looking forward to. And again, so it'll be our 3rd con going back to Saratoga and in November. Hopefully it'll be a lot cooler. Hopefully we can find a way to do it a lot cheaper, because last year was definitely it cut. It definitely cut.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go to a con in New York. I was promoting actually both of my books at BlurCon. When I was at BlurCon, I brought like 12 copies. No, 10, 12 copies of my first book, and I sold out. I let somebody, they let me use their stand. Like they had like a business section, and they let me use their stand in the gift shop area, and I sold out 10 copies. And I was walking around with a shirt with my second book, and I was just doing that promo. I mean, yeah, your audience. That's if you want to connect with people, that is the best way to do it.
So let me ask, like, what was your so the last person that we spoke to had gone to BlurredCon as well, and damn, honestly, at this point, we're starting to feel like we missed out heavy. So now explain. I just want to see each person's experience at BlurredCon. What was yours like?
Well, this past July was my second year going. I went last year because I had two friends of mine I met in college that were going, and so they were going again this year. And I've been going to cons since 2011, but this was the first con I've been to probably since like 2014. Now that I had a book out, I was like, you know what? If I go to this con, I'm going there with the mindset of people need to know about my book, my first book, Tourian. And so I went there, I had a great time. I had a really great time. Hung out with a lot of friends, saw a lot of old friends, made new friends, beat people up in Smash Brothers. I still got it. What else? Just went to panels. It was a great experience across the board. And then second time, this year was even better because I got my older brother, the guy on the cover of the World Great Box, and my nephew
really?
to come with me. That's my older brother, and that house is actually the house that my dad bought back in the '90s, like when him and my mom got married. The house in Detroit. So I saw it. I hadn't seen it probably in over 30 years. I was a baby, but my mom was like, "We're actually near the house," so she drove me to it, and I took a picture of it. But yeah, I mean, I went with him and my nephew, and that was their first con ever, and it was fun. Like the parties, the drinking, just the games, and I got third in Smash. I got third in Street Fighter. I hadn't played Smash in years. In Street Fighter, I got third in that. And I did a lot of promo and just met Cree Summers. But yeah, BlurredCon is remarkable. It's not like any other con because it's really geared towards the Black experience and Black culture. There's not too many cons that are like that. Cons are great across the board, but BlurredCon is something special because it's really rooted in the culture. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna ask if you have been, if like you've been doing traveling within the research, traveling within your promotion of the books. Like where's the farthest that you've traveled? Within gaining your research for both books.
The furthest I've traveled, I would say I went to California because Tourian is set in California. I actually went out there to go to a store and I sold out copies of Tourian. That's probably the furthest I've ever traveled. But since I was in California, I had to like really soak in and absorb the place because my book was set there. But as far as the World Great Box, I mean, a lot of the places mentioned in the books I had been to, like I've been to Ohio, I've been to North Carolina and Raleigh and all that. I've been to like the Southern Virginia area. I've been to Daytona. So a lot of those places I already been to. So it was easy to kind of just use my memory and use my experiences about the place to paint a picture. The third story, that's set in North Carolina. So I lived in North Carolina for about 9 years. Like 4 of them I was in school, then the other 5 I was just down there just living life, trying to figure things out until I eventually decided it was time to pack up and go somewhere else. So it was easy to kind of really paint a picture. Now my third story, I feel like that is the most controversial one I've written, at least that's available to the public, because it's a story in which there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of discussion about racism and stuff like that. And so
Tourian, right?
No, in the World Great Box, the third story.
The
night
story.
chapter.
Right.
Yeah, the night chapter one. I just feel like that one is like kind of controversial, and I feel like when people really get into that one, they're like, "Wow." But I mean, I wrote that one because I actually written a story years ago about a black guy who just how can I say this? He was just mistreated by everybody, black or white. And looking back, I thought it was kind of whack. So I thought to myself, maybe I could revise this and do something better. And then as time passed, um, I got more ideas of stuff um, like Travis Bickle from the movie Taxi Driver, the movie that made Robert De Niro famous. And the biggest influence of that story, I would be say there's a character named Sensui from Yu Yu Hakusho, older
Yep.
anime from back in the day. He was like the main villain of the third story arc, and he was somebody who just didn't like humans in general. And so that character has always existed. That guy who just don't like nobody, like the Joker type. Like all it takes is one bad day. I don't like anybody. I've always thought to myself, what would it look like if that character was black? You know, we don't really see that type. You don't really see that too often. Like somebody who just didn't like nobody, like and just like had that Joker, Travis Bickle, I don't like anybody mindset, but they were black instead. What it would mean to be like that and be black in this world. And so I thought that would be interesting to write about, and it just unfolded from there. I I mean, from my personal experiences with stuff like the Confederate flag, 'cause that's like kind of a key part of the story. I'll never forget. I was working at the theater, and this lady came in, white lady. Her whole outfit from head to toe was like Confederate embroidered on it, like from her jacket all the way to like her shoes. Obviously, I didn't help her sister at all. I just walked right past her and paying no mind. But it's just stuff like that that kind of just. And this is like in 2017, so it's not like back in like the 90s or anything like that. This is like 2017.
Yeah.
Like 2 years post Dylan Roof, when everyone came to the consensus that Confederate flag is pretty bad, but she was still walking around with it. Or
It's a
what else?
sign for proud Southern heritage.
Yeah, when I was driving through Ohio, sometimes I would see it, and it would always throw me for a loop because living in North Carolina, I was used to like, this is North Carolina, it's the South, but seeing it in parts of Michigan and coastal Ohio, I'm like, wait a minute. Michigan was on the side of Louisiana in the Civil War. So what's going on here? Why we got the Confederate flag?
We upstate New York. We see them here.
I thought, yeah. Again, it makes no sense. It's like, do y'all even understand or care about the history of it? Because New York was kind of opposing this flag and what it stood for, and the people who fought by it. New York was on the side of Louisiana or Tennessee when that situation was, happening. But that was another thing I kind of want to talk about. Just we all know the flag is bad. Like what the swastika and that flag and symbol means to Jewish people, that's what the Confederate flag means to the black people, to us. So that's pretty apparent. But I just wanted to talk about stuff like that in the story and how on top of just that racism and that mindset of how it can push someone. And again, this is a story in which I have a racist white lady shoot and kill a pregnant white lady. So I feel like that's kind of controversial in itself. But I mean, hey, my publisher let me go with it, so we'll rock with it. But again, I think the central theme and idea of that story is just, that Joker, I don't like anyone since we Yu Yu Hakusho mindset and what it means to a black guy, and how a lot of black guys, or just black people in general, how racism can really drive us, to the point of losing our mental. There's no rule book, there's no guidebook. How you manage to cope with that racism from the minor to the major, it can have impacts on your stress. There's tons of studies that show that racism isn't just a physical danger; it's a mental and emotional danger to your health.
Right.
So,
and I think one of the things that troubles black people so much, especially in the United States, is that the trauma never really got addressed. You just got told to get over it.
Yeah, that too. Again, at the micro level, and at the major level, where it's more of a systemic problem, where you have, America has like maybe 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population.
Yeah.
Mostly black people who are in there for nonviolent drug charges. mean, so it's the system was designed to just lock us up. Stuff like that just really can hammer on your mental when you know that the system is designed to put you behind bars. So yeah, that's what the third story is about. Just that, it's talking about like racism and what it means from a black person, how it can affect their mental, and how it can push them into that since we Joker, I can't stand humanity in general mindset. And then I would say that the next story is I did this because that story was really heavy, so I kind of wanted to like glean into something more funny. Like I just talked about something heavy and major, so let me tone it down a little bit, do something funny. So the next story goes back to when I used to compete in Smash Brothers and how I met so many people from many places, but there was one area that had a lot of people I know that are really great people and just funny people across the board. Sobos, I call it, so Southern Virginia, like Newport News, Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, is in that area. Norfolk, that area. I know a lot of people that used to play Smash that they still do somewhat. They're pretty good. But I would hang out with them sometimes, and every time I hang out with them, it would just be funny stuff. Like I said in the story, this one dude, because he used to live there, but he moved to Charlotte, but he always repped that area. He came to my house for like a tournament I was hosting, and then the night before the tournament, I let him stay in my house, and I cooked him pizza, and he just ate up all of it. I didn't get not nan slice. Lucky you a guest, bro. You lucky you a guest. If you was a guest, I would have had you reimbursed for that crap. Like obviously, I didn't intend you to eat all of it. I want you to just eat 1, 3, 4 slices, just be content. But no, you had to eat all of it. So, or just stuff like how we would be out at tournaments, and then they'd do like crew battles where it'd be 5v5. The thing about it is they would get like really drunk before crew battles, and I just watch them body people. I'm like, bro, y'all drunk and y'all still playing? Like, yeah, bro, we know what we doing. It's just stuff like that, or like just how. And I didn't mention this in the story. Like that dude who came up with my pizza. There was another guy that like, in order to. This is gonna be kind of a little long-winded joke, but Brawl, the third game of Smash Series, there's this character called Mennonite. He was the best character in the game, hands down. And the guy who came to my house, he used to play Marth, the dude with blue hair from Fire Emblem. So back in 2015, when Smash Roy got announced, and Roy also being Fire Emblem, got red hair, fire sword. And like there's this one dude I know from his name is Danny. Dandy, shout outs to him. He's from North Carolina. He's really good with Snake and Smash Brothers. He was kind of mad, and then he was like, "Man, I'm so mad," and he was just because think about it, there's a lot of Fire Emblem characters like Marth and Roy. They often tend to have the same movesets, like literally, like their moves like often tend to be the same thing. There's little variations, but like they tend to do the same thing, like swing their sword up to get back on stage, have a counter with their down B, do it like a dancing move with their blade where they can switch the blade in different directions. Their moves tend to be the same moves across the board. So Danny was upset about this, and he was like, "Man, if Roy is not a unique character, he's just another version of Marth, I'm gonna be pissed." And then the dude came to my house. His name was Kadaj. He was like, "Hey, man, I put the fear of God into that man Danny with Marth. That's why he upset." I was like, "Really?" And then the dude said, "Nah, fam. You said Marth. You spelled Mennonite wrong. You beating with Mennonite. You said you spelled Mennonite wrong, fam. Get out of here." And then we all just laughed at Kadaj like, "Hey, bro, he called you out because you used to pick Mennonite because Mennonite was like the best character in the game by like a wide margin."
Yeah,
and he was really good. He was beatable, but he was really good. But it was just funny, like, because he made it seem like he was beat everybody with Marth. Like, nah, bro, when the going got tough, you switched to Mennonite. You ain't body up from Marth consistently like that. I mean, he beat me with Marth, but that was back when I didn't know what I was doing, but I got better. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. What else? Like how like they would have crew battles and they come they would come to our state and play us. And Kadaj, he was living in North Carolina, but the moment they showed up, he said, "Nah, you know what? I'm playing on their team." And he beat us. I'm like, "You traitor! You've been living here for how many years?" Ah, man. But yeah, I mean, it's just that story or that collection of like funny stuff. I kind of wanted to lean into something funny because I just came from a heavy story like that, but also I wanted to highlight how funny like the fighting game scene can be. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the scene, good and bad, but there are like really funny moments and funny people that I felt like deserved to be highlighted because they really helped me out. And you know, it was just a great thing to experience. We were young and we were like in college or post college, and we still had a lot to learn about the world and things of that nature. But you know, shout outs to Kadaj, Ron, the whole Sova scene, like Pitt, Toasty, S-Man, Crystal Knight. Yeah, shout outs to them, man. I miss playing Smash. I just don't enjoy like Ultimate. I used to be pretty good at Ultimate. I stopped. I just didn't enjoy it. But yeah, and I say the last story, Jessica's interlude, that came from while I was living in Michigan. I was dating this girl who I changed her name to Jessica because I didn't want to use her real name because Drake, when he made a song, when he made Marvin's Room, he put the recording of a girl in there, and that girl actually ended up suing him. So I was like, you know, maybe I shouldn't use her real name. Maybe she might sue me.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, I changed her name to Jessica. And I was really into her, and we were just dating. And so we actually never went to Daytona Beach. We did hang out a lot, and I made it to Daytona Beach because I went to a tournament in Daytona Beach, and I just remember the environment, how great it was. So I thought, you know, that would be a great setting for like a romantic night, and I just went with that. I would say the whole interview idea came from Drake again because a lot of old Drake, like the So Far Gone, the Nothing Was the Same era Drake, he had songs on there like Bria's interlude, CeCe's interlude, and those songs are bangers to me. They still are. And so I thought to myself, I want to have an interlude like that, but basically I devote some time to tell a girl I was really into her, like I was really smitten by her and all that. So that's where that came from. I mean, Daytona Beach was fun, also a really racist area too. I didn't focus on that, but when I was down at Daytona Beach, I saw a lot of Confederate flags and a lot of Blue Lives Matter flags. The beach itself is nice, but like the surrounding area, the locals, not exactly hospitable.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that in one of our previous interviews as well with Midnight Comics. You know, they were saying, you know, where they are, they're like outside of the ATL, and like in order getting their comic books out there was kind of tough, or at least in, you know, distributing and getting to other comic book companies, like comic book stores, and like they had to. A lot of comic book stores were in like some pretty racist spots, like. They, you know, Lloyd, shout out to Lloyd and Tasha Jones of Midnight Comics. They were saying like they were call or email, and they're, you know, the store owner's like, "Yeah, I'm definitely down. I like it.
And then you get there,
and it's a completely different tune. You know, they see the store owner see that they're black, and it's like, you know, I don't really think we have the market for this, or, you know, and you know, which is also a part of one of the things that drives us to do what we're doing now. And especially, like I said, we feel like we missed out on BlurredCon. Like if I had known about it, I would have put all my money into getting there. Because like we need stuff like this for the culture. You know what I mean? For young black, you know, creators, whether you're an artist, whether you're an author, whether you're, you know, a content creator and stuff like that. You know, we need these outlets. Like, you know, shout out to Room Full of Blurs. You know, shout out to, you know, everyone else that we've been making connections with recently, for giving people our people, let me say, these platforms to expand on. You know, just recently I heard about blurredstation.com, which is essentially going to be like a streaming service for black creators. Which is something I'm interested in. You we can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, this is something that we need. You know what I mean? That creators like you need, creators like us that we need. We're also, we're writers as well. We're in the middle of writing a book. We're in the middle of writing, planning out a comic book as well. We got so many things that we're doing right now, and being able to give our people a platform. Like, we didn't realize how big this was kind of gonna get, and by no means are we big yet. But like the fact that people like you were the first person to reach out to us and ask for an interview. You were the very first person to, like, I'm sitting there and I didn't see the email right away because like we don't get emails. Who's emailing us besides hey, 10% off of this. So I didn't see it at first, and I'm like, who is it? So I start reading the email, and I'm like, oh shit, oh my god, we got somebody wants an interview. Oh my god, they want an interview. they're reaching out to us now for interviews. And then I'd say literally about like 3 days after I read your email, after we started talking, we had another person reach out for an interview, and then another person reach out for an interview. And now we're like, oh, hold on, this is something here.
Yeah,
this is something. We were originally doing this just for like our enjoyment, talking about comic books, heroes, and just nerding out. But it's creators like you that are really actually giving us a bigger purpose than just nerding out on stream. So I definitely want to thank you for even seeing us in that manner as a resource, because that's not what we initially wanted to be. But now, that's you have definitely given us the inspiration to do so. Now to rotate. Now, you said Tourian, and I agree. Is definitely, your first book was definitely a bit controversial. There was a lot. Going on in that book. Now, what was your inspiration to start Tourian?
Well, I mean, Tourian. Let's see. I wrote Tourian back in 2011 when I was still an undergrad in college, like March 2011. Yeah, so it definitely was much different. And when I say different, I mean worse. I had to go through many things, many ordeals, good and bad, to get to where we are today. It was definitely some many nights where I sat up there just writing and talking with people and traveling and just also dealing with life. I see from 2011 to about now, I done moved at least like 4 or 5 times, like across different states. Like, I'm talking back and forth to Maryland, back and forth from Ohio and Michigan, from Texas to the DMV. I was doing a lot of moving in between then. But the initial inspiration behind Tourian was Metroid. The game Metroid, been out since like the 80s. Metroid itself was inspired by Alien, movies with Sigourney Weaver and the acid blood and all that.
Yep.
So initially, I was so inspired that I wanted to create my own character based off of that. I didn't want to just make a black Samus, which, and I'll say this might be a little bit controversial. Miles Morales is cool, but I just don't like the idea of, oh, he's just a black Spider-Man. I kind of don't like that. Don't give me the black version of already established hero. Give me a character that's unique.
I feel that.
It can be based off of another character, but not outright. A lot of people still see Miles Morales as the black Spider-Man. And the cool thing is, he's definitely evolved over the years. Like, he's got his own story, his own universe, and things of that nature. And that's cool to see. And he's definitely shaking off that label. It's just initially in the beginning, he still had that label of, I'm just the black version of an already established character. And in the case of my character, there's major differences between my character and Samus. For example, my character has a father and a younger cousin, Samus. Parents were killed, and she was raised by birds. Same up in outer space. my character grew up on Earth. Samus is a bounty hunter, and my character, she's again on Earth and wants to be a lawyer. So there's clear differences, but I never deny the influence and inspiration where it came from. So Metroid was obviously the biggest influence, and I would say some other influences would be that Kelly Thomas is, and this is why the story is set in California. Well, one of the many reasons why it's set in California. Kelly Thomas was a white dude, schizophrenic, homeless man who he was pretty much a victim of police brutality. Police, they did some really horrible things to him. And it got so bad he got put on life support and died 5 days later, which I never understood why people don't treat police brutality as a serious thing. Police brutality affects everybody regardless of skin color. Like the police, they beat up just as many non-colored people as they beat up colored people. It's just a testament to their training and all that. But that story really kind of touched me. I would say the Naruto versus Pain arc from Naruto. Naruto was and still is a big influence on me as a creative. I really enjoyed that story arc where he had to fight a villain, and turned out the villain had a major connection to his past and his teacher. I really like that story arc. What else? Gungrave, which was originally like a game, but it got turned into an anime and actually got another release like last year. Gungrave is about a guy who dies. He's a part of some mafia, but in their world they have the technology to bring people back to life. So he comes back to life and he gets revenge on like the person who killed him, who was his best friend, who's like the leader of the mafia now. And I really enjoyed that story arc. No, not story arc, but just that story in general. I would say Yu Hakusho was a bit of an influence. One of the villains was inspired by the character from this is demon boy that Kuwabara fought. They used like toys. His name was Rinku. He fought him at the Dark Tournament. Like the rainbow hat. Like that villain was kind of inspiration for one of the villains in my story. But also the school to prison pipeline. Like
that was a really nice touch there within the book. So in like when you really drove it home with the subtlety with the principal and his racism. Like it was there, but it was subtle. So you're like, maybe, but then like it all comes full circle towards the end. The fact that you were able to have Whitney and her friends, especially her boyfriend as well, all be essentially kind of like, what would you call it? Would you call it possessed, or did they just get the powers of these villains, or are they like possessed by the villains themselves?
I wouldn't necessarily call them possessed, because possessed implies they lost control of themselves and the creatures are in full control. It's more so they've been inhabited, and it's kind of like the Venom relationship with the symbiote, if you will, where the creature, yes, it controls Eddie Brock, but Eddie Brock is still behind the wheel. He's still behind the wheel. It's more like that relationship. Possessed kind of implies like the creature or whatever is possessing the person is in full control, but it's more like the Eddie Brock symbiote relationship where the symbiote has taken over Eddie Brock, but Eddie Brock, if he sees like a little girl, he's not just going to kill a little girl because he hasn't enough sense to do that. So it's more that type of relationship.
So, do you mind if I like explain a little bit about the book and how
sure.
story wise? So like right off the rip, we're introduced to Whitney, and her friends, normal high school kids, of course dealing with racism and everything. But things take a twist when her and her friends go out to see the meteor shower. After watching the meteor shower, a ship ends up crash landing nearby. So of course, they curious.
Typical.
Yeah, they're curious. So they run over, go check it out. And mind you, they're thinking it's just a meteor. They're like, oh, let's go check out the meteor. And I actually think somebody in the story makes a comment about Venom and the symbiote. Oh, it's an alien creature. You might watch out, whatnot. Probably might have aliens, might take control of us. To get there, and it's a spaceship. There's like a big explosion, and like next thing you know, like they're all struck by. It's described in the book as lightning. They get struck by lightning, which I also found really interesting. Like them getting their powers wasn't just like this. Oh, I have powers. Oh my god, I got hit, and it's painless. And no, it's in the book. It's described as like incredibly crucial, like getting struck by lightning, actual lightning. And then when they wake up and come to, Whitney, she has this, in a way, symbiotic or Metroid like, armor on, that is like symbiotically connected to her, while also having this voice in her head, which is the alien being Tourian, who is essentially what was it? Galactic detective.
Like pretty much like a space cop, if you will.
Yeah. And so, and her friends were actually, and on that ship, Tourian actually had, what was it, four or five other pretty much bad guys that she was in the process of shipping to pretty much prison, space prison. And so now they each have the abilities of those prisoners. One, like you were mentioning, has the power to create and control toys. There's another friend who, he was an artist. He actually has the power to make anything he draws come to life.
Oh, I'd have fun with that.
Yeah. Well, anything he draws can come to life. She has her boyfriend ends up getting these kind of godlike omnipotent abilities and powers.
Well, side note, let me say something real quick. I actually, and this is what I mean by example with being bad. Originally, his name was Gil, and the thing about it is, I realized I have to change that because Street Fighter is a character named Gil, and his skin is like half red, half blue, and so I thought Capcom would have ate me up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because I mean, Gil was Street Fighter was an influence on me, but I couldn't keep the character named Gil and have their skin be half one color, half another. But yeah, this is just a little side note someone throwing that was an example of what it was back in the day. His name was Gil, and he still behaved the same, but his name was Gil, so I had to end up changing his name to something else because I felt like, and I knew that Capcom would have said, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?"
Like, yeah, that hit somebody's desk like, "Hey,
they would have stomped me out.
Let me see now. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone there.
Sounds a little Pitch Black meets Blue Beetle.
Yeah, in a way, like I said, there's a lot of, and as you read it, you can like visibly see like, oh, that's inspired by this, that's inspired by this, that's inspired by that. And like I said, he name drops Wolverine, name drops Deadpool, name drops Daredevil, and even like certain issues of those comics as well. Which I love that. When I came across, I was like, wait, hold on. Did they just say what I think it is? Even right here on page 29, right here, started watching Gun Gave, on the computer. Like that's like those text to world connections right there. I loved. I freaked out. I absolutely loved it. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a line in here they actually quote Master Yoda from Star Wars at one point as well. What is it?
Fear did not. There's no track.
No, not that one. The other one. Fear is
The path to dark side.
Yeah, fear is the path to dark side. Fear creates anger. Anger creates hate
greed,
begets
suffering.
And yeah, when I saw that, I'm not gonna lie, I got chills down my spine, and I nerded out hard body while I was reading it. Like this is absolutely amazing. So let me guess. There's Whitney, her boyfriend Loren, her friend Alice, and then there's
Daniel.
who else?
Daniel and Maya.
And Maya.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they all end up getting these powers of these aliens in a way. Now, I'm failing to remember all their abilities. Like I said, I believe Alice was the one that had the power of the toys. Daniel had the power to draw and create whatever he wanted. Whitney had the powers of Tourian. Loren was her boyfriend, who had the kind of like omnipotent abilities. And then Maya, what was hers again?
Like shadows, pretty much.
Oh, shadows, like Shikamaru.
Shikamaru, but like she can actually create like creatures from the shadows, like attack and stuff like that.
So hold on, is it actual shadows or is it darkness?
Shadows. Or is it darkness? Actually, yeah, that's a good question. That's what I was thinking too.
Like you said Shikamaru and he said creature, so my mind went to like pride.
Yeah, so at first when she first realizes what her powers are, she straight references Alice is like, holy hell, Maya, you're like Shikamaru from Naruto. Yeah. But then, like I said, their powers end up growing as they use them more. And I think she does realize that it's not the shadow, it's actual darkness.
Darkness, yeah, it's that. But yeah, I mean, Shikamaru was the reference. I mean, even with Daniel's side, because he can draw stuff and bring it to life. So again, Naruto once again was a creative influence. But yeah, I mean, when I was coming up with the villains, I kind of wanted to create villains where they were different from the hero. Because one thing I love the MCU is one little gripe I have, if I can have just one, is if you look at a lot of movies, a lot of the villains end up having the exact same power as the hero. Like whether it be at the end of first Black Panther, the main villain he had the blood and he had a Black Panther suit. In the first Ant-Man, the main villain he wore a bug suit that allowed him to shrink. In the first Iron Man, the main villain he had an iron suit. Like I don't like when the villain has the exact same powers as like the hero. I kind of want the villain to be something different and unique. I kind of like a Zelda boss where you have to figure out how to beat them based off of what you have in your inventory, your abilities, and how how that works and how you figure it out. Like a puzzle, if you will. I just don't like it when you have the exact same powers, and I feel like that's boring. And so I want every villain to kind of be different, and even other stories I'm working on, the villains are different. They have different abilities based off of what the hero has. So that's something I wanted to stress. Also, the reason why it's set in California, again, I guess this is another criticism of Marvel, maybe just comics in general. I wanted to avoid New York. New York, to me, it's an amazing city, amazing city, Big Apple.
Comics.
Well, overdone. Think about
yeah, right. The entire MCU was in New York.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, you got Doctor Strange, The Punisher, Jessica Jones, the Avengers headquarters, Daredevil, all in New York. Spider-Man, all in New York. So I wanted to avoid that. X-Men, upstate New York. I wanted to avoid that. I just felt like New York was too cliche. I wanted to put them in different places.
I definitely feel that. Now, after once they start realizing, mind you, this group of kids is also bullied. They're super bullied, and there's also, but they're all like incredibly smart. So that's what they're bullied for.
Is there a mainstream comic book from LA?
Yeah, hold up. I think there is. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. I think there is a mainstream comic book character that is from LA that's based in California.
But there's no one that's coming to mind off the top of my head though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh.
Yeah, Blue Beetle, Robbie Reyes. Yeah.
No,
But
you said
no.
Ghost Rider.
Wait, what? Ghost Rider, really?
You said Robbie Reyes.
Yeah, Robbie Reyes. Robbie
I
Reyes.
thought Ghost Rider was from New York. I thought
Well,
Ghost Rider was from New York.
I think the MCU version
so-
of him from LA.
So all right, so yeah, there's so Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider is from New York, but Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider is in LA. Robbie Reyes, he's the one with the Charger.
Mm.
But yeah, so these characters are extremely bullied, right?
Mhm.
Because they're smart, bullies always trying to get them to do their homework and everything. But we get to see a nice kind of like duality, especially when it comes to the whole race topic. Whitney, her father is a lawyer, actually a decently established lawyer. So she wants to be a lawyer as well.
Uh-huh.
So she looks up to Daredevil and stuff like that. Now her boyfriend, on the other hand, he has a more Malcolm X approach.
My nigga.
Yeah, he has a more Malcolm X approach. You know, we gonna get ours. You know, in any way, shape, or form. But now his girlfriend on the other hand is like, no, we got to take the legal route. So I love they have that back and forth all the
Dynamic,
time.
yeah.
Now we already see when you give a Malcolm X character powers.
Yeah, Magneto, Killmonger, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Magneto.
So we essentially go along their lines. Mind you, now all her friends have these powers too, and
that's hold on. That's something else I want to address real quick because that's something that's actually starting to annoy the shit out of me. I don't like this whole Malcolm X being the villain type shit because once again, in the Joker, King Killmonger, he had a different point of view. Magneto had a different point of view, and here's the wild part: like anyone who knows the history about Malcolm, Malcolm got called this, he got called that, but nothing Malcolm said was a lie. Magneto literally told everyone how shit would play out. The government got wind of what was going on and what happened. If you watch first class, he literally tells him word for word what's about to happen. And then when they get to Cuba, what happens?
Exactly.
So it's like,
I understand.
I can't be labeled the bad guy because
I'm telling the truth.
I'm telling the truth, and I saw what was going to happen and decided to go, fuck that. You want what's mine, come take it. I can't be the bad guy for that. We need to stop making our, what's the word for our pro-militant, different-minded characters the bad guy. Now, Malcolm is not a Stalin. Malcolm's not a Napoleon. That's different.
That's true. That's definitely true. Me, I've always been on the side that if Malcolm and Martin sat down and had coffee together, the world would be different, completely different. If we took King's ideas and added a little bit of Malcolm to it, and then took the way Malcolm, his passion for it, and added a little bit of Martin to it to like balance it out. Because if you look at there were two extremes. You know, one was all the way on this side, like we gonna get ours in our blood or not. Other side's like, nah, pass with non-violence. If we found a way in the middle there.
But that's one of the main issues with society and black people because they get told you either get told to use force or sit still. If you use force or hold hands. And because you're in the middle on that, what you're doing, you're standing still. Like I literally just had this conversation with someone in our department at work, and because there's multiple people in history, especially black history, who don't get taught about. Metzger Evans, Huey P. Newton, fucking Bobby Seale. People didn't know who Fred Hampton was, so they made the movie about him.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's like you look at these people who changed history or for their people or could have done all these things that you don't get taught about because either they were pro-force or they were anti-establishment. Like out of all the major black major black leaders in history, the only one that gets their own holiday is Martin Luther King Jr. Whatever happened to Harriet Tubman being put on 20?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of shit you got to question, but it's like
I feel like a lot of black leaders from that time period, they don't get a lot of their just desserts or mentions. I think a lot of it has to do with respectability politics at that time. The idea that, you know, we gotta be a certain way and things of that nature. I think one in particular is Bayard Rustin and what's his name? A. Philip Randolph. Bayard Rustin was just as important to the movement as Malcolm and Martin. He helped organize a lot of things. Just that him being gay, that he didn't get his fair acknowledgement, because again, respectability politics, the idea that, you know, because you are gay, you somehow harm the movement, which, you know, we know that's not true. And the same thing with A. Philip Randolph. In his case, he was non-religious, so it became a thing of, yeah, you're important, but you're non-religious, so your contributions and your efforts won't get the same acknowledgement and limelight as Malcolm or Martin or Thurgood Marshall. There's a lot of important Black icons that history kind of painted them in a different light because of their views. I just think of those two because they made so many important contributions, but because of like how they lived their lives, they didn't get their fair dessert or treatment.
They didn't get their
And
roses, yeah.
They didn't get their roses. I mean, but of course I give them their roses, but on a grand scale, it just hurts to see that their impact and their legacy is not on the same hill as like a Martin or a Malcolm or a Thurgood. So,
No,
but
I
yeah,
definitely agree. And we see in the book, we read that those two different ideologies end up coming to an impasse. You know what I mean? In the book, especially when it comes to the climax of the book. And I can definitely see where, and again, as a writer myself, I can definitely see where, because you said like the ending of this had to be rewritten for the publishers. I can definitely see where, at what point it got rewritten.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because some real extreme shit happens, and then at the very end, in a way, it gets retconned and reversed. And it would have been interesting to see how that all, you know, because I don't want to give away the ending in the book for their viewers. You know, go out, you know, buy the book and read it. It's definitely good. But I can definitely see a lot of that gets reversed, and I would have liked to see how Whitney's life would have played out if everything stayed as it happened. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the idea of how the story starts off came from Tarantino. The whole like not starting the story in order, like stuff like Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill. I love that story something where basically you start off with chapter 5, and then the story starts with chapter 1, 2, then skip to chapter 4, and then the story starts with chapter 3 and ends. I love stuff like that. It forces the reader to pay attention, and it really kind of will help explain certain things that happen in the story that you didn't understand. I love that story technique. Non-linear storytelling, medias res, whatever you want. There's difference between those two. Whatever you want to call it, I'm a fan. So I wanted to do something like that. So that's the reason my story started off. But the ending, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending, yes, it was different and much worse when I first wrote it. But then I thought to myself, what would be a good way to kind of paint this up? And so I just actually had to go backwards and write that part at the very beginning. And then I kept that in mind. I said, you know what, I can easily kind of connect that part at the ending. And then I was able to do it. But yeah, I mean, Tourian in itself is something that I had to really kind of dig deep and do research. Me as a Black guy, I'm not a Black woman, and I'm gonna get to a hot take in a little bit, but I can say this. I talked to plenty of Black women that I know and spent time with, and friends, family, to help craft this character. My hot take is this: I feel like anybody from any perspective should be able to tell any story they want. So, for example, if a white guy wanted to write a story from Texas and wanted to write a story about a Black woman from Chicago, he should be able to do that. What I can say is he needs to do research in order to do that. Like, he should do authentic, like going to Chicago, talking with Black women, reading books by Black women, things of that nature. He needs to do
Pretty much
authentic
doing his due
research.
diligence to make sure that the character does a
Yes,
service
absolutely.
to to that demographics that he's speaking to.
Yes. And I say that because when you think about it, I mean, a lot of these characters that we like, I mean, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, man, they both rest easy. Black Panther was created by them. They're two Jewish dudes. So we can't really necessarily say that, are they allowed to create them? No, I mean, they did it out of respect, and the characters obviously grown and evolved, and Black creators have taken over and kind of told his stories. But there's so many characters that we think of that we like that were created by non-white creators, and they've been around for decades, and they've grown and evolved. But the initial creators were non-white creators.
Not a lot of people know that, like, when Black Panther was created, Black Panther came out. What was it? A whole year or 6 months?
No, 6 months after
the actual Black Panther
for the movement.
Yeah, it came out 6 months before the Black Panther movement, and and again, like, if we look at that, I would say those two white guys did pretty good creating a Black character,
right?
Yeah,
and then they actually had to fight to have the character kept because
they
told Jack Kirby that the issue needed more white people in it. So the next issue Jack Kirby drew, he had T'Challa fighting the Klan.
Shout out
on the front of the cover. So I salute King Kirby for that gangster shit.
Shout outs to Jack Kirby. Man, he passed away in 2003. He gets nowhere near the recognition and love that Stan got, but he's just as important as Stan Lee.
Definitely ended up outshining him, or at least people gave Stan Lee a lot more credit than they did Jack Kirby. There was actually around the time that Stan Lee had passed away, there was actually a whole kind of court case kind of thing that went on for people like y'all all bugging out about Stan Lee, but y'all forget his partner in crime that created a majority of these characters with him was Jack Kirby, and he's gotten no kudos for a lot of the work that he's done.
There's actually this really cool image I saw on Instagram where it was Jack Kirby sitting at a drawing board, and he's in heaven, and then it's like he's at the board, and then you see Stan Lee running into the room. He's like, "So I'm back, man, and our next character is."
I mean, rest easy to both of them, but again, Jack Kirby, he's just as important to everything as Stan Lee was. But yeah, I mean, I stand on about the philosophy. Of course, we want to hear more voices from those different perspectives, and it's greatly appreciated. But I would never sit there and tell someone or feel like because a person is not of a certain background they can't write it. That would be essentially saying because I'm a Black guy, I can only write stories from the Black male perspective. No, I mean I'm a creative. I want to tell stories, from
that everyone
whatever point, as long as I can make it work, and as long as I'm respectful of the perspective. I feel like you should be able to tell any story you want as a creator from any perspective. Just make sure you do research and you are respectful of that origin in the demographic and culture. So that's my hot take, and I stand on. I mean, everybody loves Black Panther, but if you love Black Panther, you have to acknowledge Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, which everybody loves Stan Lee. And again, Jack Kirby, he deserves just as many flowers as Stan Lee does. But yeah, Tourian in itself was something, again, back in 2011, and it started off as something meant to pay tribute to Metroid that just evolved and evolved. And what I can say is Tourian is not the only character that I have out there. There are other characters that I kind of mentioned them a little bit in Tourian itself, like how certain characters got locked up. Like there are other characters because essentially I plan on building up my own little Avengers. I'm actually working on another book that with a character in Detroit. I want to pay tribute to the city I was born in. That will eventually meet Whitney. His powers are different than hers. I have a character in Atlanta that she has like the blood of a Greek god, and I have a character in Virginia Beach who initially I was going to make him a book, but he's going to be a side character. He'll eventually get his own book one day, but he's going to be a side character that still plays a vital role and will eventually join up with Whitney and all that. I've actually can say I've written the sequel to Tourian already. Yeah. I've written it already. It's gonna have to be edited and revised, and there's gonna have to be other books to come out in between now and Tourian 2. But I can't say it's been written and she goes to college, and I can say the biggest influence on that is Dead Space on the sequel. Like Dead Space in the sense of like the first 2 games. We're just ignore Dead Space 3 because that's bad. Dead Space 3 was terrible. But Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2, I fell in love with those games. They're some of the greatest horror games of all time. I need to play the remake that came out back in January. But in Dead Space, for those who don't know, it's about this basically this alien artifact that once it's created and put in a place, it starts to mess with your head, and it also causes like undead aliens to show up that can only be killed by severing their limbs. And when I mean by mess your head, I mean the longer it's intact and doing what it does and transmitting a signal, it causes people to like see and hear things that aren't there. Like, and it varies by person. So it'll use a person that was deceased to try to connect with you, and it's all an individual thing. So, for example, for me, it may use a loved one that passed away to communicate with me, and it'll only be unique to me. And same thing for y'all, Power Triage. It may use like somebody that y'all know to try to communicate with you to do something. And so I thought about that, and that's going to play a key role in the next in Whitney's story, where there's like a technique that happens to her, and throughout the story, like she'll start to see and hear somebody show up that's dead, like just taunting her and being in her face and just jumping up and surprising her, like on a level like a Dead Space, while she's dealing with a new threat and new problems in California. And also, one thing I really wanted to touch on, I kind of wanted, and this is where the name Whitney comes from. Let me sidetrack real quick. Whitney comes from one of my friends I met in college. Shout outs to her name is, it's funny because her name is actually some of my son's superhero. Her name is Whitney Wright. She out in New York. Shout outs to her.
I definitely sound like a superhero.
Yeah, it's funny, but shout outs to her. I actually use her name. It's actually her face too. I should use her name in her face. And she told me her name came from Whitney Houston. And so if you know anything about Whitney Houston, you know that when she first came out, Black people did not like Whitney Houston at all. They felt like she was a sanitized pop star. Case in point is actually footage of her being booed at an award show. I think it was like a Soul Train Award or something like that. Like Black guy, they booed her. That. Yeah, they booed her because they didn't like her. They felt like she was a sanitized pop star for white audiences. And so I kind of want that to be a thing in the second story, where Whitney, the character, after doing so much in the first book, she goes to college and she goes to an area and she comes across a bunch of other Black people that see her as kind of like a problem, or see her as like somebody who is not doing enough, or see her as, you know, somebody who has this but doesn't do anything for her people and culture. I felt like that would be interesting to talk about, especially since knowing what Whitney Houston went through. I thought that would be interesting to kind of really dive into, because you got to think, if somebody like Tourian were to exist, it's the same thing with Black Panther Wakanda. If we knew something like that existed as Black people here in the States, wouldn't we feel some way about that?
All right, what you gonna do about all this going on?
What you gonna do? What are you gonna do about the strife that we're experiencing here? And I mean, they did something okay. They built that outreach center, but I felt like in my character's case, people would outright expect or demand things or judge her. Because, for example, she doesn't go. Yeah. When she goes to college, they expect her to go to HBCU, you know, because, you know, she's Black and she got these powers and it would mean a lot. Would they expect her to, you know, only date Black guys? It's just stuff like that, you know, that I kind of wanted to look into and talk about what it means to be a Black superhero when you have your community watching everything you do and say. And can you live up to the standards, or do you just try to be yourself while still, dealing with your own personal issues and still trying to stop evil that's out and about? I kind of wanted to dive into all those topics.
I found like that's probably going to be super interesting because, like, with most superheroes, a lot of superheroes, they don't know, like the population doesn't know who they are. Like in Spider-Man's situation, Peter Parker had to deal with people talking shit about him without knowing that they talking shit about him. Oh, Spider-Man's this, Spider-Man's that, is this and that, to his face, not knowing that they're talking to Spider-Man.
Yeah, his own boss hated him.
Yeah. Now the thing with Whitney, on the other hand, everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
So now she has to deal with like, oh nah, like I'm saying this to your face, so I mean this. You know what I mean? You need, so I want to see how she's gonna, handle that. When you have someone that, like, they know it's you. So they're being, that what they're saying is them being brutally honest, because they're looking you in your face and saying these things. They're not, oh man, just this Tourian, superhero, they're not doing enough, blah blah blah. So they're able to separate the two. Peter's able to separate the shit that they talk about Spider-Man and the shit that they talk about Peter Parker. He's able to separate the two. Oh, everyone loves Peter Parker. Not everyone loves Spider-Man. But with Tourian and Whitney, they're one. They're the same person. So when someone says, "Oh, I hate Tourian, I hate this superhero," she's like, "Damn, they talking about me." Not talking about the superhero.
Yeah,
they're talking about me personally. So a lot of that now is directed at her personally. So I'm interested to see how she's able to traverse that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that when you're a public figure, especially I feel like as a Black public figure, you always have to come to grips with how people always have an opinion on you, no matter what you say, what you do, no matter what you don't say or don't do. Is just that I feel like when you're Black, there's another layer to it that comes with extra levels of of the conversation, and I wanted Whitney to kind of experience that because she's still trying to figure out, no, I always say this by Sigler, she knows what she wants to do. She's just trying to get there while also dealing with her own mental health. Because again, dead space being a prominent theme. Like you have all these things going on and your mental health is under attack as well.
Ooh.
So, I mean, that's just what I wanted to share about the sequel. And then after that story, I can say all the characters will be ready. Because by that point, all my other characters' books will be out. Because I'm working on the third one right now, which is set in the same universe as Tourian, and then the next one will be set in the same universe. And again, that's going to be in Atlanta, and I'm excited for the one to Detroit and the one for Atlanta. But yeah, Tourian is just one of many characters I have. But yeah, I mean, when it came to just coming up with Tourian itself, I feel like, one thing I've noticed ever since the character has been revealed, when I do like signings and stuff like that, or I go out to the public, it surprises me how people react to it. This is just something I wrote because I thought it'd be cool. Like when people tell me like it should be in classrooms, or like when I take a picture with a little Black girl and she smiles and she really likes it, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I could have the same impact on her that the Dark Knight had, or like back in 2010, I met Spike Lee and I shook his hand, and so I'm thinking, well, maybe this could be her moment where she meets somebody that she looked up to, and it can mean a lot to her. And I never thought I'd be in that position, but I mean, the character really tends to resonate with people. I mean,
yeah,
I'm glad it does.
I mean, and it definitely resonates with me as well. Just because on the standpoint of like with Spider-Man, they say, great power comes great responsibility. But I feel like being black with great power comes at least 2 to 10 times more responsibility. Because now not only are you responsible for saving people's lives, but now your community expects you to be so hardcore pro black that it's like you need to be doing more for us now. So now you got to balance. Now it's just like balancing that out. When we first started doing this, I really had to sit and think. It's like, all right, well, are we going to only talk about only black heroes? Are we going to talk about black comics, or are we just gonna? Is that just going to be it? But then I came to the realization, like you did, like, no, we're creators. You know what I mean? We're blurs, we're people. We're entitled to, to like other things that are non-black. You know what I mean? We're entitled. We can talk about whatever it is that we want to talk about.
The only thing I want integrated is my coffee.
But like, so it's been really tough, and now I feel like I'm coming to that impasse again, because I'm starting to see how important we're starting to become to the blurred community. And I'm like, all right, like what's going to happen if I decide, I want to interview a white content creator? Are we going to catch backlash for that? If anything like that. So that's something that I've been playing over in my head, and that's but again, as content creators, we're entitled to, and especially someone that's building a platform like this to reach out to everybody. You know what I mean? In our mission statement, we're here for the culture, but not just black culture. We're here for the nerd culture. We're here for everyone that got bullied back in high school for Naruto running to class. The people that got bullied because they wanted to wear, a Naruto headband or wear their favorite superhero T-shirt, to school. We're here for those people. We're here for everyone. Because, like, I want to be more Wu-Tang than anything.
Nothing to fuck with?
Yeah, Wu-Tang ain't nothing to fuck with. But at the same time, we're for the kids. Wu-Tang forever. We're for everyone. We're for everyone. You know what I mean? We're for the, preppy rich kid, but loves to read comic books too.
So just for clarification, I'm Method Man, you're RZA, he's Old Dirty Bastard.
I mean, we can just take the old out. Sorry, so, as you know, I don't know if you've watched any of our prior episodes or anything like that. Our third person, he's sitting here training because, like I said, we're going to be streaming after this. So I'd say I feel like we're more so Wu-Tang, and I feel like your stories, they resonate with people because they're based on an exaggerated reality. You know what I mean? You put that reality is still in there. Hey, yeah, there's these aliens and people have superpowers, but at the end of the day, there's still racism, there's still prejudice, there's still economic and social inequalities going on. There's still that reality, and that's what drew me into this. That reality of it. I was raised by black women my whole life, and just so now to read a story of, and I see my mom as a superhero. My mom was my superhero when I was growing up, and so to read a story about a black female superhero, it has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. My mom is black, was there for me every single day. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without her. Shout outs to the moms that are there. Side note, I think I may have found what Wu-Tang stands for. I could be wrong. I think it stands for witty, unpredictable team, always navigating goals. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it stands for. Witty, unpredictable team, always navigating goals.
I'm gonna double check that. I'm gonna look at that
because that makes sense.
That definitely does make sense. That definitely makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad it resonates with people, and like I said, I had to speak with various Black women. I even had to read a book. It's called "The Sisters Are All Right" by Tamara Winfrey Harris. It's basically like a bunch of Black women writing about their experiences as Black women in America and some of the various common tropes and stereotypes lodged, against Black women, such as like the anger and things of that nature. So that's the type of research I had to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like I said, I'm glad it resonated with people, and I'm proud of the character and like what it means to a lot of people and how it's evolving and how, like, I remember my last review, they told me this should be in classrooms, which kind of really blew my mind because I mean, I'm a teacher now. I've been a teacher for almost a year.
Wow, nice.
And to think like it being a classroom, that never crossed my mind. Again, this is just something I wrote just so I thought it would be cool. But to be in a classroom and things of that nature, that's a whole other ballpark. When you talk about books that are in classrooms, those are legendary books like, Catcher in the Rye and To Kill a Mockingbird. What else was in classrooms? The Ralph Quimby books, Beverly Clearly. Like when you talk about being in classrooms, like books like those, like Beverly Clearly, like she passed away like a few years ago, maybe like 1 or 2 years ago. That lady is an icon, and you're telling me that I could be in the same classroom as her, and her books has been around since the 40s, 50s. Like that is astounding to me. Yeah,
I definitely agree. That. And what do you teach?
Writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Know.
Yeah. I mean, I have a master's degree in creative writing, and so when I was contacting the company, they were like, "Oh, we're super impressed by this," and then the rest is history. So, but yeah,
I feel like I feel like that's very fitting, and maybe you could take your words and use those as examples in your teaching, because I feel like it's only fitting, a published writer also being a teacher that teaches writing. Now with these two books out, the Gray Box, Tourian, and then with your upcoming books as well, I usually where do you see your writing going? Where would you like to see yourself, within your writing career? I'd say within the next 5 years, maybe even 10.
5, 10 years, I would say more books. That's the most important thing. But like more major opportunities from these books in terms of just like visibility, and you'd be surprised when people tell me like Tourian should be adapted into like a Netflix show or an Amazon show.
That's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you for reminding me. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. As I was reading this, it felt like an episode of a show. It felt like an episode of a Netflix show, especially the way you wrote it with, a snippet of the ending being at the beginning and then going in, to each thing. I feel like this would be perfect as as a TV show adaptation. A lot of the times, a book, when it gets brought over until like movies or TV, you lose a lot of context. But I feel like with this specifically, you can take this word for word, action for action, each chapter into an episode, and maybe even drag it out a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, you're one of many people that tell me that it's just stuff like that goes with just getting my name out there and getting more recognition. I would love that, and just like more opportunities. I would love to like do like a go to HBC and just talk about writing and teach at that level. I A&T is I love A&T. Again, shout outs to A&T, Aggie Pride all day. But I would love to go to other HBCUs and just talk about my experience as a writer and like how the HBCU experience really molded me and helped me out.
Right.
I like to see my other characters like kind of go in the same category as Tourian, where their works come involved. Because my next superhero story, the one that's in Detroit, it's a more comedic story, like very funny. The focus was the comedy, like to like level of like Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. I feel like with that story, if you don't laugh it off, like I failed, and I really worked hard to make the comedic elements stand out and things of that nature. So I would love to basically see my work adapted in that fashion and just be in a position where, the writing and the awards that come from it, I'm able to live comfortably and, make things better, not just for myself, but all the family and friends that help me along the way. So, but I mean,
now
I would love to do, hold on.
I definitely know
Maybe
some
on some
people. I definitely know some people, especially within doing this. Like I said, a lot of the networking. Um, let me talk to some people. Let me see what I can do, and maybe I can get them in touch with you. And if you're comfortable with it, maybe play around with the idea of getting this into a show adaptation, maybe live action, because I know animation tends to be way more expensive than live action, and you can get a Kickstarter going, and to fund the live action. I know a lot of really awesome people that do a lot of that can do some amazing things with the camera and CG. So if you're interested with that, we can message it after that, and we can see what we can do.
That sounds cool. I always thought Tourian would be an anime first, then as
Yeah,
opposed to being live action. I feel like live action, that's kind of like the major leap. Like we've seen the characters, like Iron Man, he was a cartoon first before he ever became like Robert Downey Jr. and all that. So, but what I was saying was, I mean, I guess the goal, and I'm pretty sure you all have this goal too. Like maybe at the level where you can be one of those people that get invited to be a guest at BlurCon and speak to people. Because that's when you really made it, when you have a whole audience of people who care coming there just to see you. Um, at that level. But I would say for me, I mean, Torian, I would just love to see it adapted into something like animation would be the kind of the preferred route for now. I feel like live action. I never really thought Tourian would be live. I never even dreamed Tourian would be live action. It's kind of like really a breathtaking thing to even think about. But I feel like animation would be cooler because with live action, there's a lot that kind of goes on in live action.
yeah.
Um,
But either way, even in animation, I know a lot of people in animation that maybe I'll send them your links. I'll talk to them about it and see what we can do. Um, man, I definitely want to say I love the books, man. I love what you're doing. Love the fact that you're a teacher. I love the fact that you did your research, especially with Torian. You did your research about the life and how what it means to be a black woman in America, um, and also a black woman of power as well. Everything that you're doing it's phenomenal, and I personally definitely I'm gonna be reaching out to a lot of people, telling a lot of people about this and about your works. Um, man, definitely keep doing what you're doing, bro. Keep grinding. Um, before we head out here, what's one piece of advice that you give upcoming writers?
well, first, I want to say thank you to you and also to your co-host Triage. Thank you, gentlemen, both for what y'all do. You guys do amazing things on camera and off camera. So don't let anybody tell you you guys don't deserve your flowers. I'm here to give them to you right here, right now. So thank
Thank
you both.
Appreciate you.
I would say probably the best piece of advice I could give. I had, how about I had to learn this lesson. Don't let everybody tell you what you can and can't do. If you really want to do something, take the time to learn and figure it out. Um, if you have a goal, everything else is irrelevant. Focus on that goal. What people have to say, how people feel, that's irrelevant and secondary. If you have a goal in mind, attack it all day, all night. Don't anybody stop you, say no, or get in your way, or things block your path. There will be difficulty, there will be challenges. The road to life, you might have to make a U-turn. You might go on a path that's a dead end. You might drive the car off a cliff. But as long as the car's still intact, you just keep on driving. You'll find your way.
Why don't you let the people know where they can find your product at?
Well, you can get both books on Amazon. However, if you really want to support me and don't support Jeff Bezos, the terrorist who robs me, like, dear goodness.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, the Jeff Bezos, the terrorist who just robs my pockets. If you really want to support me, Black Gold Publishing, all one word, blackgoldpublishing.com. Both books are available. Black-owned company out of Virginia Beach. Again, shout out to them. That'd be Tahara and the Black Gold family. Teddy, he's the one who actually told me about him, and I found out about him through him. But yeah, blackgoldpublishing.com. That's where you can buy it. Or you can just go on Amazon. But if you really want to support me in the mission, blackgoldpublishing.com. Black Gold Publishing. Yeah, Black Gold Publishing. That's great. If you really want to support the cause and Whitney and future endeavors and stories, Black Gold Publishing is where I prefer you to go purchase Tourian and the Royal Grey box, because there's actually more Royal Grey box content coming.
All right. We look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all level 7s. We appreciate you guys watching. Definitely please support him. Support, because again, if we don't, who's gonna? If we don't support, who's gonna? You know what I mean? We gotta look out for each other. We gotta have each other's backs. We gotta lift each other up. And with that, that's been another episode and another interview with the Super Breakdown. Jaurice, man, I appreciate all your work that you're doing again, man. Seriously, keep it up. We will definitely keep in touch. Because if we come across anything, that we think could benefit you and what you're doing, we're definitely going to shoot it your way. Because again, we gotta have each other's backs. We gotta lift each other up. And this is definitely a movement and a cause that we can get behind.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Definitely. Hit him up on Instagram, 313 Snake, and support, show your love, comment, subscribe, share. With that, level 7s, I bid you adieu. Anyone who's watching, tune in within like the next hour or two. We're gonna be streaming live, all 3 of us, kicking the shit out of each other and multiple fighting games. So tune in later on our kick, the Super Breakdown. Jaurice, thank you, man. Seriously, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you. Shout outs to the TSB crew. Shout outs to everybody. Shout outs to North Carolina A&T, Miami University, where I graduated with a master's. I'm appreciative of everybody. And again, thank you both.
Absolutely. Nothing but love. Later.
Yeah, see you.